The math program is really unique because there's so many different paths that you can go with it. I think that since it's a small program at Stevens, you really have the ability to seek out that individualized support and guidance. I can't imagine any other college experience.
Today's guest graduated in May 2024 and is currently working at Everest. Please welcome Zoe to Find Your Flock. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, how are you, Sandra?
I'm good. It's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a
Yeah.
minute. I love when I can catch up with students that I've had the opportunity to work with at Stevens. So this is always a fun full circle for me. But I don't know if our audience knows you, so could you introduce yourself to everybody, where you're from, and kind of what first drew you to Stevens?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Zoe Hack. I am from Hillsborough, New Jersey. I studied math at Stevens, and I also had minors in computer science and economics, so a lot of different stuff. I also did a lot of student leadership activities, and Stevens wasn't initially on my radar when I was applying to colleges, but my absolute favorite teacher in high school, who is the reason why I study math. She was a Stevens alumni, and she was like, if I'm writing your letter of recommendation, like that's my only thing, like you just have to apply. So I applied, gave it a shot, learned about Stevens. I had initially thought it was a little bit too small of a school for me, but it ended up being, I can't imagine any other college experience. It was perfect size, perfect location, and my elevator pitch to people is always really that small school, small knit community, but with the resources of a much larger campus.
That's perfect. So you mentioned your high school teacher. Is that what first drew you to math, to study math, or any other?
Um, So it's her classes, and always from a young age, I've always loved math. It's just like been something that makes sense to me. So I guess kind of that feeling of accomplishment is also a part of it from a young age. But it's also somewhat of a high school scheduling fluke. I was very involved in choir in high school, and that put a lot of limitations on my schedule. So I think it was my sophomore year of high school. I was taking choir is one specific period, and I was taking two different science classes, and I didn't have room for my language anymore. So I took Italian online that year, and then I was like, this is just going to be way too difficult to pick back up. So I was like, okay, now I have a free class junior year and senior year. What am I going to take? So my parents were like, you know what? You love math. Why don't you try statistics? So, my junior year of high school, I took AP Calc and AP Statistics, and I had my teacher, Mrs. Smith, for both of them. I loved her teaching style. It worked really well for me. So, loved both of those classes. And I think it was being in AP Stats specifically, I was like, wow, I think that this is what I want to do. I think that, I mean, at that point, I wanted to be like clinical statistician, so for like clinical research and trials. And I was like, I love this. This is what I want to do. So that's what made me want to study math. A lot of different things together, but that's my main story.
That's awesome. So math is broad. I mean, there's a lot of different application areas. We had an earlier episode where we caught up with one of your colleagues that graduated, and she's working in consumer goods, luxury consumer goods, and doing like forecasting and modeling. So tell us a little bit about the industry you're in and any internships or experiences that kind of helped shape that. And are we deviating from the high school dream? Or, tell us a little bit about how you ended up at Everest and even what you do at Everest.
Yeah, so I am in the insurance reinsurance industry, more so on the reinsurance side for me, which I did not know what it was before my interview, even. But reinsurance is pretty much what it sounds like. So it's insurance for insurance companies. And I work on catastrophe modeling, and catastrophe modeling itself is kind of the cornerstone of reinsurance. So, an example for what catastrophe modeling is and how it's necessary is if you had a Florida homeowners insurance company and there's a hurricane that comes through Florida. For the most part, all of their policyholders are going to have some kind of claim if there was this really big catastrophic event. So they're going to need to pay out some of those claims. They're going to need to support all of their policyholders. And most companies don't hold that amount of cash on hand. So that's where they buy reinsurance policies. So we're able to get them those funds for catastrophic events. So I do a lot of modeling based on the types of locations that they have and the different types of programs that they write. And just in general, for how I got into it, I was looking for internships that were close to home so I could live at home for the summer. And Everest was one of the ones that I found that specifically said they were looking for math majors because a lot of times I would see like computer science or a quantitative field. And I'm like, I know I'm in a quantitative field, but I also know that there are a ton of computer science focused students out there. So I applied, I got an interview. I actually got an interview for two different positions, but catastrophe modeling just sounded so interesting from what I learned in the interview. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try this. My first summer, absolutely loved it. And even going into that summer, my plan was, okay, I'll try this out. And then next year, I'll like try to get an internship at J&J or somewhere where I can explore that like clinical side of statistics. And as the summer went on, I fell so in love with the work, the team, the culture at the company. And I was like, I don't really feel the need to search elsewhere. Like I can see myself here for like the rest of my career. So, I accepted my return offer and then I accepted my full-time offer after that next summer. So I really stumbled into it, but as I've learned from a lot of people that I've met, even outside of the company, I had the opportunity in April to go to a conference for one of our main model vendors, and a ton of the people that I met there just stumbled into the industry. And even a lot of people stumble into insurance later in life as well. So it's not uncommon for that to happen, but it's pretty funny that that's kind of almost the typical path.
That's amazing. I love that for you. I love that you're super happy in your position. I mean, I feel like that's what we want most for our graduate is to have you have the skills to just do something that makes you really happy, and using your technical abilities and brains, to the best of your abilities. I know you, I mean, like economics minor, computer science minor. I also know you taught in Stevens math circles. You served on Dean's undergraduate student advisory council, which is where we know each other a little bit. How did some of these extensive co-curricular and extracurricular activities kind of prepare you, for the workforce or in your current role, besides your math classes?
Yeah, I always tell people, like other students, my peers at work, that I really do think that being involved in student leadership and in extracurricular activities has really been just as beneficial as coursework, for succeeding in the corporate world and just in life in general. I would say probably my biggest takeaway from all of that is the importance of communication, how to communicate with different groups, different stakeholders for a project, different members of your organization. If you're an e-board member, like what kind of information goes out to the members of the organization, what kind of information gets delegated between the e-board, and just really understanding like the kind of hierarchical communication that's important for a lot of just a lot of different types of systems and things. Um, I think also the importance of like facilitating conversations with people. And I think that's a really important piece of problem solving because the way that you can improve on your problem solving is to understand what others are seeking to get out of it.
That's awesome. Yes, communication is so important. I spend a majority of my time communicating, and very little of my time actually solving the specific problem, and a lot of times talking about it and really understanding all the aspects of it. So great advice there. I think, we always like to try to give students advice. So what kind of advice would you give to students that are interested in kind of math, actuarial science, statistics? What advice would you give them?
So here, I actually know that I wrote down something that I really really liked for this one. So I wrote down to indulge in your curiosity because that's how you're going to be able to find out what you're really passionate about doing, about solving. And a lot of times, if you're passionate about things, you're going to be able to bring more energy into it, bring a bunch of different viewpoints into it. And yeah, I would just say like really try to do something that you enjoy doing and you have a interest in.
Perfect. Love that advice. Being curious is so important. So, I mean, you kind of already covered this. I was going to ask you what's next for you professionally. It seems as though your company is supporting you going to conferences and things like that. So it looks like, you're gearing up to, stay in the company. But any other kind of plans for you professionally?
I have been taking actuarial exams for my specific role at my company for like the catastrophe modeling team. It is optional, but I was like, you know what? I have an interest in it. I'm fresh out of school, so I'm still in the mode of studying and exam taking. So taken, I've passed three exams so far, and then my next one will be August. So I have a tiny break from studying right now, and then I'll start back in the new year. But yeah, my company has a really great student program, so they have a lot of support for taking the exams, which has been really helpful.
That's amazing. I always think students always tell me like, I'm done, I'm never going to study again. And then the opportunities present themselves for certification or so if you finish, how many actuary exams are there in the sequence?
So it depends on what organization you're getting your credentials from. For my line of work, we do it from the Casualty Actuarial Society. And there are six full-length exams for the associate level. And then now there's another like smaller exam as well. There's also a project, three online courses, and like validation by educational experience, which luckily I have credit, college credit that covers most of that. I did have to take an online accounting class because that is not something that I took, but it's a lot and the exams aren't offered very often, so definitely a long road, but I'm enjoying it. I've always liked taking nice notes, using different colored highlighters. So I get to do that.
That is 100% my daughter's favorite part about studying is the highlighters and the little post-it notes that you can drop in.
Mhm.
100%. I'm glad you still get to use those on a regular basis. So finally, I know you gave us a pitch for Stevens, but why should a student choose math at Stevens? This will be the last question.
I think that there's so many different reasons. Well, first, if you love math, I feel like it's a great option. But I think that the math program's really unique because there's so many different paths that you can go with it. And I think that's also with math in general. But I think that since it's a small program at Stevens, you really have the ability to seek out that individualized support and guidance if that's something that you're looking for. And it's also built through the curriculum that you're interacting with students of other majors all the time. So I would have most of my probability and statistics courses would mostly be computer science kids, but getting to meet with those peers and learn about the type of projects that they're doing and being like, oh, hey, I'm taking this class for my minor that you took however many semesters ago, and getting to make connections, um, interdisciplinary connections. And then you're also going to have a lot of classes with the engineering students. And I think that that's also a great way to kind of get a little bit of an insight on all the different industries that you could potentially work in with a math degree.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is all the time we have for today. I want to thank Zoe so much for joining us and taking some time, to meet with us and come back as an alumnus. We love when we see when our alumni come and kind of check in about about their current positions. I remember your expo day like it was yesterday. So thanks everybody for joining, and don't forget to check out our other episodes. Click subscribe and share. Have a good one. You've been listening to Find Your Flock, Season 2. I'm Dr. Sandra Clavijo. Thanks for joining us as we help future ducks find their path at Stevens. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and share this episode with a future duck.